All right.
All righty. Live.
Right there. It's been a long day.
Yeah. I had a brand exclusive call today for a contract. I told you about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on the basis of that, it's like it's funny when we talk about the caliber of an account, and usually that there's like an equal amount of resistance for how good the account is going to be, and when that resistance doesn't match up, and you either have a really serious crazy profit account that seems like it's a layup versus if you have like an account we know like where you get the runaround and it sells 100 units a month and they run you around for a year. So it doesn't always turn out stereotypically.
Yeah, juice isn't worth the squeeze on those.
Yeah, which is, I mean, in that case, it's like we talk about you never want to like give up or burn a bridge or whatever it is, but there's a certain point with some accounts, like we've been there, where your time is quite literally not worth the payoff, like you said.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yeah. So as people are joining in here, and Brandon and I are just chatting, we'll be going through a sourcing again. If you guys have any questions at all, drop them in here. I already see one question coming in. The purpose of this is question and answer, right? So we're covering sourcing, we're covering outreach, we're covering everything related to Amazon, but like the focus of these are to answer your questions. This gives you an opportunity, to ask us questions that you guys might have in your business. So, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. So drop them in as you guys are listening along, and we'll answer them as they come in. So the first question coming from John from YouTube, and which, by the way, if you guys are watching on YouTube, and if you're not watching on YouTube, actually head over to YouTube. Really helps out the channel when there's views on there, and just hit the like button. Also helps out the videos a lot. So first question from John, do you have inventory where the product has been FC transferring and processing for more than 2 months? We have inventory just won't become available. Preaching to the choir over here.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing. It also depends on the time of year. Like right now, I mean, it's a little unprecedented. Like Amazon's brought out some, what's the dates that they wanted for Q4 and Black Friday and all that stuff. It's early this year, right?
Yes. So for Black Friday to be Prime eligible, you're going to want to get your inventory in for October 19th. And for Christmas, it's still the December 1st, to my knowledge. I'm actually putting out a video tomorrow. Everything about Q4, full guide on Q4, how you can maximize your profits. So if you guys are watching and if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, because I got a big Q4 video dropping tomorrow. Do you want to tell them about what you told me with the pallet today?
Yeah. I was going to say, so we have a pallet that we had sent in. God, it was the beginning of. So today's September 4th, and it was, I want to say July, beginning of July or something. And if you've done LTL shipments that are not full trucks, that are not FTLs, if you've done like a couple pallets or one pallet, sometimes it's necessary because the items that you're sending in our case, they were breakable, but it can take forever. And sometimes when it gets there, it takes forever to check in and you're not updated because the carrier isn't syncing with the facility. So we had one that was nothing was moving. And Amazon, you can't get anywhere with them because they are requiring it to be a closed shipment for investigation. And so if you guys have ever dealt with something like that, one thing I recommend doing is calling the carrier directly. And which I did that, and it turns out the pallet never even got to Amazon. It actually is apparently, they don't know where it is. It's missing, but it ended at the dock of the carrier at the destination, and then was marked as missing. So we have a pallet that is nowhere to be found. And so these are just the things that you have to deal with when you're selling on Amazon that people don't like to talk about because it's not flashy and glamorous. And, there was $7,000 cost goods on that pallet alone. So, that's something that we have to figure out, and just comes with the territory, I guess, dealing with Amazon. So.
Yeah. And now you got to reorder product to account for the product that's not going to be available for sale. So you're further backing up your payout times, so it's just hurts cash flow. Like you said, this is the interworkings of what sellers deal with on a day-to-day basis with Amazon. But John, I don't know if you're using 2D barcodes. Maybe that'll help. There's different softwares that allow you to do 2D barcodes, which could help expedite the process of Amazon's receival time. Pallets are going to be, just by nature, a longer receival time than a small parcel. I haven't found, other than that, there's not really a rhyme or a reason to that check-in time sometimes. Sometimes I've found that, if it's a manufacturer barcode, for whatever reason, it checks in, boom, like that. And then there's some other items that take a little bit longer under FNSKU barcode, but I've also found the reverse, in the opposite direction. So sometimes there's just no rhyme or reason to it, but 2D barcodes as a whole has definitely helped a lot of sellers out.
Yeah, one of the things that we had just at AMZ United when we had gone to that event, and one of the things they had mentioned was relating to actually the optimized versus non-optimized workflows, which, if you guys are sending products into Amazon, by now you know what that is. Came out back in, I think it was April. And it's basically like, are we sending to one facility? Are we sending to 2 to 3? Are we sending to 4 or 5 plus? And so when you're sending to 5 facilities, Amazon has that inventory that's spread out more. And so your facility alone could be why your check-in times are longer, because some facilities just take longer than others because they're staffing, whatever it is. But if you're sending to multiple facilities and they have less units to check in, that could be something that, if you're not shipping on pallets, if you're small parcel, then that could increase or expedite your check-in times, as well.
Yeah. The next question is from Plays2K on Twitter. Best way to find good distributors tired of wasting time of asking brands directly that say 99% no. So you've come to the right place. This is where we source the company, identify a company of interest, and then give you guys an idea of an outreach strategy. So we'll get into all of that. One thing you have to understand is that 99% of brands do say no. And what we do, which we'll get into on this call, is that we essentially assess the degree to which that's a no, or their certainty of that no. So we listen to things like tonality. We try to understand if they're totally no way not interested, or maybe it's something where we can convince them. So we'll get into all that today. Another question here from Dylan on YouTube. How do you optimize a listing and get stuff like A+ content? Do you plan on making a video on how to do it?
Looking for me to answer that one?
I was asking you, but
deferral to me. Yeah, I mean, you're making the videos for the most part, so I figured that was
Well, I was deferring to you because you do a lot of the A+ content, so that's
yeah. I guess it depends on a lot of factors. There's 2 ways of doing A+ content and everything, and we always talk about, especially when you're talking with brands and just in general, something that I always say is you don't need to know the most, you just need to know more than the person that you're talking to. And when it comes to brands, sometimes they don't have the knowledge of how to do this A+ content and all that stuff. And it doesn't mean that you need to know how to do it. It just means you need to find a way to get it done. And so whether that's having someone in-house to do that, or whether that's outsourcing it to someone on, Fiverr or Upwork or whatever it might be, that's also an option. So, or in my case, Brad was saying, I just from doing things in the past, I'm decently good with design and Canva and stuff like that. And so I've done stuff, myself, just like we've taken our own photos for listings and we've also outsourced it. So it just depends. Just finding a way to get it done, and tailoring it to what the brand wants is probably my best advice. But you don't need to do everything yourself necessarily.
Yeah, and if you don't, especially in the beginning, I would actually probably if you don't have any design experience like Brandon does, I would recommend just typing in on Fiverr A+ content design, looking at people with good ratings and history, and just going with it. And then if you're worried about the brand knowing about that, you don't need to worry about that, because you can just tell the brand that it's your in-house team that's taking care of it. But they don't need to know that you outsourced it on Fiverr. So another question here: how do you vet a supplier?
Yeah, there's a couple factors. I mean, we talked about this a lot recently, as far as like, there's basically three things that you want to look out for: is where you're finding them from. So if it's Telegram, if it's WhatsApp, it might not be a good look. As well as if it's a brand, that they're the brand and the manufacturer, and if it's a distributor, that they have a direct tie back to the manufacturer, and they can provide you with and have no hesitancy providing you with an invoice or just a direct ties back to the manufacturer to show that they're a legitimate distributor. Those are two. And then what's the other one that we say? I forget. There's a third one. We have like our 3 points for vetting.
I think you probably covered it.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I kind of combined
those are
them.
the two big ones. I mean, anything that anybody pitching you a product in the DMs, or just say goodbye, or Telegram, anything like run away as far away as possible. That's pretty much it. They got to be, if it's a distributor, like Brandon said, they got to be buying directly from the brand. Preferably, you're buying directly from the brand, because that's going to really give you the security. So I think it's a good segue. Why don't we jump into Smart Scout here? Go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, definitely. And if there's any other questions, like in the meantime, I'll keep an eye on that and answer anything that you guys have. But we're going to talk a little bit of sourcing like normal, but then also just some more Q4 stuff, because that is, it's September. So
yeah,
which is crazy. I don't know. I feel like the past couple months have just, it's gone.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast the year has gone by. I mean, I feel like as Amazon sellers, to an extent, our entire year is just a preparation for Q4. Just with the orders that we're placing with suppliers, as early as January in some cases, right? It's pretty crazy. If you're doing wholesale, you want to be placing your orders way in advance with some of these suppliers, if they allow things like pre-booking orders, incentivize for free shipping and things of that nature, discounts, just to get your order in ahead of time, months in advance we're talking, because then they can go back to their factory and tell them how much you're ordering.
Exactly.
You don't have to pay for the order until it ships, but it is in most cases a firm commitment that you make earlier in the year.
Right. While you're looking for this, I'm just going to answer this next question here. That says, when you source via Smart Scatter, you guys, from my knowledge, are mainly looking for small to mid-sized companies. But how do you source for distributors, specifically some that carry a wide range of brands? The first thing that you can do is you can actually reach out directly to the brand and ask for their list of authorized distributors. So, if the brand doesn't have a list of authorized distributors, then Google is your friend, and you can source the distributors off of Google, or trade shows are another great one. And it's pretty much about it. Distributors are pretty easy to find, pretty low barrier to entry.
Yeah. The biggest thing, you just want to make sure that distributor is purchasing directly from the brand. And the best way to verify that is simply by going to the brand and asking for a list of authorized distributors or verifying a specific distributor with the brand, right? You don't have to tell the brand you're selling on Amazon. Of course, I would always say that's a good idea because, again, just because you're buying from a distributor and it's legitimate, authentic product doesn't mean that you're authorized to sell it on Amazon. That's a different story. So as far as
my screen's frozen here, so I'm just going to jump out and jump back.
Can you see this?
Yeah, my screen's frozen, so let me just jump out and jump back in. Just let me back in.
Yeah, go ahead. You good now?
No, I don't know. I can hear you though. So.
All right. Why don't you play around with it a little bit? I'll remove you, and then if you want to jump in, see if you can add yourself. Yeah, I could hear you, but I don't know what's going on with the screen. We'll keep rolling with it while you're playing around with that. So in Smart Scout itself, right, essentially what we're doing here is we're going to brands, and then we're going to, if you guys are have joined us in the past, you know how we do this. But if you're new to the lives, we're just going to filters, and we set a very basic filter parameter. I like to set a top range of a monthly revenue cap of 250,000. For newer sellers, you might want to reduce this down to maybe 100,000. And we're keeping our ASP, our average selling price, above $9. The reason for that is because there's a sweet spot under $10. So we want to maximize the potential there. And then we're keeping the average number of sellers at 2. And then we'll go ahead and search, and we'll scroll through here to see, to start sorting through brands. So I'm gonna, Brandon, you with us now?
I'm here. I don't know why, man. It's like the streamer doesn't like me sometimes. I feel like it's never you that gets kicked out. It's always like something. I don't know.
I got that high-speed internet.
I'm pretty sure we have the same internet.
I think I got the higher speed.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm balling on a budget over here.
Yeah, so I'm jumping right back. I was just, as you were out of there, I was just going through Smart Scout. So yeah, and if you want to answer those questions as they come in, just feel free to interrupt me. So I'm in Smart Scout here, right? And we're just going to scroll through potential brands that may be of interest, right? We set a top line monthly revenue cap of 100,000. I scroll through this and just look at different factors, right? So the great part about Smart Scout is we're able to narrow down our search, right? As opposed to going on Amazon, you're bombarded with all kinds of listings that are Amazon selling directly. So with something like this, right, we're able to look and see the average number of sellers. We're able to see the average selling price. We're able to actually look at the brand score, which is an indicator of how well the brand's presence is on Amazon, sales volume, listing optimization, all those different things, right? So when we're sourcing, we're not necessarily hyper analyzing these listings. Rather, we're opening a listing, identifying if it's potentially of interest, which happens really within 10 to 15 seconds. And then from there, we would contact the brand. So I'm just going to scroll here, Brandon. If you see anything, let me know.
Yeah, definitely. The analysis portion of a brand usually comes like there's a basic analysis that's done, but at the same time, most of the analysis is done at the outreach portion. So that's something that we see a lot of times with newer sellers, is that they'll put a little bit too much focus on the portion of sourcing and not enough on outreach. While you're looking through there, I'm also just going to answer that follow-up question to the brands versus distributors thing, which is it says, you already went through brands. Is there anything that you're looking for like a low brand score, a number of average sellers, specific numbers. And the answer to that is yes, we're looking for key components based on what Smart Scout tells us. But the reality of it is that we've done this so much that we have a gauge within 10 to 15 seconds of what that brand looks like and if we should add it to our spreadsheet. And that's based on a lot of components. It's based on the listing being optimized. It's based on the price of the product. It's based on the sellers. It's based on tons of different factors that one can outweigh the others. If it's a listing that's completely optimized, everything is perfect, it's a 10 out of 10, but the pricing is all over the place, that might push us to contact the brand and add to the spreadsheet. So the more you do this, the more you pick up on different things that just give you that, we call it our sixth sense basically for a brand. To the point where Brad and I at this point can look at something and say, that's an exclusive waiting to happen type of deal. And then a follow-up question regarding, brands, distributors. It says, in your experience, the brands have an issue telling you some of their authorized distributors if they won't directly open a wholesale account with you. Generally not. Brands, they sell to the distributors because they want the distributors to sell to other people. So distributors versus brands is kind of a barrier to entry, right? So distributors, generally speaking, are a lot lower of a barrier to entry because, they want to sell to you, they want your money. They're very financially driven versus brands a lot of the times are driven by other things other than finances and orders and money. So you have to tailor your approach to how you contact a brand versus a distributor, but also going into it understanding that distributors are sometimes easier to get accounts with. And so brands will kind of pass you off to them because they just don't want to deal with you basically. So not terribly difficult. These are great questions. I'm actually really enjoying these more sourcing intricate questions. Really, really good stuff. It's crazy though. We look at these brands every single week, and these are we always without fail find a brand that is a serious caliber brand for someone to contact and close an account with.
Believe it or not, I think we were saying last time, which was on one of our lives, I don't know which it was, but we have 13 lives that we've done. So this is episode 13. I went back and contacted one of the brands because it was a good brand.
Did you?
What am I? So it's like, if you guys haven't seen the other lives, go back in and watch some of those lives too, because we literally find brands that we would contact ourselves. So it's, it's really worth watching. This is obviously Amazon's on it, so we're going to close out of there. Not of interest.
But it's also, close out of it for sure. But the one thing to notice based on what I saw was that Amazon was not dominating the buy box at all. They weren't even really competitive.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Let's see. Yeah, that's true. The rank kind of sucks though.
Yeah, I don't love the product in general, but let's see, on Instagram, it sucks that for some reason the Instagram, what's it called, comments and stuff don't come up on StreamYard. I don't know why, but on Instagram says, just landed our first exclusivity deal. All thanks to you guys. Appreciate the content.
Awesome.
That's sick.
Hopefully
it's a good one. Any exclusivity is a good one, to be honest with you. But that's good stuff. I appreciate the love. Many more to come. I feel like the first 100K sales, the first exclusivity deal, the first everything is kind of the hardest because, I think it gets easier because yes, you might be dealing with higher caliber accounts or whatever, but you learn the process and you learn the systems, and the streamlining of that becomes easier as it goes. I think. I don't know. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, something's just, I don't know. It's the same thing. Like we do the same thing over and over and over again, and so it just becomes easier to do it, and you learn more, and you learn more efficient ways to improve your process. But
Compounds itself, it's
that's
compounding growth.
that's the word I've been trying to think of for the past 5 minutes.
Yeah. So this listing right here, actually Pattern sells it. They're the largest Amazon seller. So we're going to go with a pass on this one. It also doesn't even sell that great. So
Yeah,
here,
not guys you go up against.
what was that?
So not guys you want to go up against.
Yeah, really. So maybe something, first thing I'm looking at though is the weight to price ratio. Like really not
Yeah,
loving that. Selling for $14 and you're looking at 2 pounds.
yeah. And with lower priced items, we really do like those higher ASP items, but you also have to remember that your dollars are what you're looking for, right? So if you have an item that's a 50% ROI or 100% ROI, but it's only making 50 cents, well, Amazon doesn't care about your ROI. They charge you in dollars, not return. So if something goes wrong, if you have a removal, fee or whatever it is, and you're losing your entire margin. So there's less room for error with lower priced items like that. I actually have a question in here about deactivation. It says, have you guys ever been deactivated?
Yeah,
So
well, we're dealing with something right now on the Mexico marketplace.
yeah,
It's not deactivation, but it's an account tag for that marketplace. So we're working on getting it resolved. It was a restricted product policy violation. Full transparency, we made a mistake, and the first mistake was that we had those marketplaces turned on. The second mistake was that we didn't vet properly all of the inventory that was cross-listed on those marketplaces. I mean, how many months were we saying that we needed to just shut down those marketplaces, right?
yeah.
It's such a small percentage of the volume. So things happen. Sometimes things slip beneath the cracks, and we're getting things sorted out with Amazon, so that it doesn't affect the U.S. marketplace. But it's a great question. These are just things that, as Amazon sellers, we're dealing with just like you guys. So nobody is immune to Amazon's rules. No matter
Amazon is always going to be dangerous to an extent. It's just about minimizing the danger, right? So, and that is really the first, deactivation issue that, we've pretty much, yeah, I think it is the first, right, that we've faced.
we had
And
one. Remember the one a long time ago? That was years
oh
ago
yeah, that was it. Yeah,
when we
that was
first started.
super long. Yeah. Well, okay. So minimal, right? And versus, one of the best performing tweets that we had, like we were joking about it, was just the clean bill of health on the account health, which, I get it because to us it's more normal because of the type of thing that we're doing. And I was explaining this today on a call as well, is that the you know the like element of brand direct wholesale that's intangible is the safety aspect. And I think that the industry is starting to go more towards brand direct because of the safety aspect, in addition to other things, locking down contracts and exclusivity and stuff like that. Yeah. And then Brad asking about the YouTube schedule and what that looks like as far as posting.
Jump back to, where's that question?
All the way at the bottom. Yeah, just asking about all the way at the bottom says
why do we make YouTube? Well, we make YouTube videos to provide you guys with value. We're working to grow the channel so that it hopefully gets monetized, which if it does, it's almost monetized. And when it does, it's all going to go right back into paying our team to help put out more valuable content for you guys. So that's
But
why we.
also at the same time, it's like, why do we do these lives? Like we love this shit. Like
Yeah,
that's the thing. And so that's like when we go out to dinner, like we talk about this stuff too. So and nobody's paying us to do that, right? So that's an element of it too. That's just it's something that we love, and it's a passion, and we're lucky enough to work in what we love to do. So sharing that is a great privilege, I guess.
exactly. Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, that's it, man. When you love what you do, you don't need to. The money's a bonus, right? It's just,
Yeah.
it's icing on the cake. So, I'm scrolling here. And again, as you guys are going through Smart Scout, you could quite literally go through every single item and open up every single item. And I would actually recommend doing that if you're new to
Mhm.
it. But because we've done it thousands of times, we can kind of screen and look and see, some of those intuitive things, right? So I pulled up a couple listings before, but again, I'm just going to keep scrolling, seeing what we can find. There was one listing that we found the other live. That was this one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
This tree gator we found on the other live.
This is a good, solid. Paul in the chat here said a labor of love. I guess we can call it that. It's going to be the title of all the live streams from now on.
Yeah. So with this listing right here, I mean, I'm still saying I hold to what I said a few weeks ago. This is a good outreach.
Oh, yeah.
They got map violators. It looks like they got a lot of Chinese knockoffs running ads
Mhm.
on their listings, which is honestly a great pitch. I love that pitch to brands. So it really hits their heartstrings when you tell them that they have Chinese knockoffs that are polluting their Amazon listing, especially if you're talking to an owner. That's definitely a good way to get their attention. So again, I'm not gonna
My
say live.
was just
Go ahead.
not be right on the
What was
like
that?
my delivery when I say that it must just not be correct, because I swear you get so many more like owners concerned. I don't know, maybe it's my tonality or something. Like when I say that, they're like, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
Then I also think it work though too, so maybe it's a stylistic thing. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's got to be the right time, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
so as we're scrolling here, I really want to find a listing. To see if we could. And they got good images. They got a good listing. Um, so let's take something like this, right? I mean, we could keep sourcing. If you think we should keep sourcing, we could keep sourcing. But I think this is an example of a brand that I would reach out to on the basis of improving their Amazon presence.
Mhm.
And we talked about this. There's two kind of strategic approaches that we're taking when we reach out to brands, not distributors, brands. Um, One is we are looking to buy their products and make money transactionally. And two, still we're looking to make money, but we're pursuing it on the basis of converting it into an exclusive or providing them with value to where we can become one of a select few number of sellers, right? And the two strategies are sort of interchangeable. They go back and forth, but this would be an example of a listing that falls into number two, a brand that falls into number two, which is pursuing on the basis of possibly, a value add, an exclusive, a selective agreement. You want to maybe get into why that's the case?
Yeah, I mean, for me at least, the biggest issue that I'm seeing where this is not going to be an account that you're looking at on a transactional basis, meaning that you're making money off of every purchase and every sale. is the price to the weight ratio. I don't love that. I think that we could throw this into the revenue calculator and we could see that we're probably working on real slim margins here. It's also FBM, so there might be the opportunity to increase the price. But it's not something that, or the flip side of that would be an account that you look at and right off the rip, you're saying, it's a higher ticket item. You get the price list. It's making a good ROI, a good margin, something like that. It seems tough. You're starting about 2 feet back because you're starting from a place of a lower sell price. But at the same time, the listing is positive in the sense where it's not optimized. So you're more so swinging for the fences on this a little more, rather than transactionally making money off of every purchase.
Yeah. And as Brandon was describing that situation, I was just jumping to the other one here, which is a good example of perhaps in the opposite direction, a very
Yeah.
nice high average selling price here. And on Keepo, we can see that it really has a map policy, right? A map policy that was not broken until recently when they had an influx of Amazon sellers. So maybe something that, I think this would be worth reaching out to the brand. Would you
Yeah.
agree with
Oh, absolutely. You look at it from, again, it's like that question earlier in the live where it's like, what are the things you guys are looking for? Well, in this case, I mean, not that it's amazing, but the listing is fairly optimized as far as pictures go. It's got a couple bullet points. Like, it's not bare bones, right? But reaching out and saying, hey, we're going to optimize your listing and do this and that might not be a value add for this brand because they already have a decent amount of things where the marginal difference that you might make might not be enough for them to want to work with you. However, there's a gigantic elephant in the room with this, which is that, holy crap, what happened in May or June or whatever it was, where we have this gigantic influx of sellers that leads to me to think that there might be a supply chain change, or they've lost control of their distribution, or they started working with a distributor, or someone's going behind their back and selling to other people. Like, you don't know, you know what I mean? So that's right then and there. As soon as I saw that, that's a call for me immediately. Plus the high ticket.
Yeah, especially because it's coupled with the high ticket, right? It's like even at 100 units a month, right? It probably more, maybe 150. Even at that, like, that's not a crazy volume, but when you're selling something for $165, that's a pretty good chunk of change. If you were to get an exclusive on this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And let's see, do they have A+ content? They got A+. It's not that good though.
No, it's not great. It's not great.
I mean, it's there, but it's not really that great. They don't have a brand store. So there's improvements that can be made here for sure on the listing itself, but primarily we'd be reaching out to this brand on the basis of what Brandon said, which was a loss of distribution control of some kind, because we can see clearly they have a map policy up to this point, and then boom, bunch of sellers is more map violations. So you may be able to potentially come in and pitch them on how you can help with that issue.
Yeah, question on Instagram too, just like general thing. Said you guys starting private label at all? And we've been messing around with it a little bit, but like the majority of the focus is still in brand direct, because I mean at this point, like, the growth rate has been unbelievable. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, it's a great business model, and it's something that we're dabbling, for lack of a better term. So.
Yeah, it's a very attractive model because you can literally build up a brand, and that does not rely on just Amazon, and you can sell the brand, so that's obviously the sex appeal of it. At the same time, like Brandon said, it's tough to walk away from. You still there? Oh,
Yeah.
You were cutting out. it's the same time, it's tough to walk away when you're, having exclusive contracts about, with conversations with brands that are potentially huge profit accounts. So it's like those keep coming in, and that's the other thing is like, as you do this for a longer amount of time, we have to contact way less companies because of our skill set that we've gotten over the years. We have to contact way less companies, and now we can focus more on the key accounts, the ones we have, keeping them happy, and doing outreach to the key accounts and the key follow-up accounts. Versus when you first start, you just, you got to contact 100 to 150 companies a week because you got to put in the work, you got to get the experience, you got to fall on your face, get up, do it again, and that's the biggest thing with wholesale. It's, it really compounds itself over time.
Yeah. I mean, it's all skill set, like, and you develop it, and anyone can do it, which is the great thing, about this business model. I mean, today we literally had one, like a student call, a mentorship call, and we were on the phone with them and called the brand that he was dealing with, and I got them on the phone, and he was struggling a little bit with how to approach it, and in real time, like, I showed him on the phone how to approach it and basically turn the guy's mentality around, the brand owner. And now you helped him craft the follow-up email for it, and now he not only does he understand the logic, and we explain why we did certain things, but he also could have landed the account. So it's just building the skill set up. And now next time he goes into that call or a similar call, he's going to be like, I should have done that for this reason. And he's going to have the skill set and knowledge, and it's just fast tracked it a little bit for him. But anyone can develop it,
Yeah. It looks like another question came in on, do brands open wholesale account in Q4? It's actually a good question. It's not that they don't, but we would generally say it's not the best time to contact brands in November and December, because you think about, you have Thanksgiving weekend, you have Christmas, everybody's really taking a lot of time off. So it's really not, plus they're just not in the mindset of, growth. January comes around, hit the phones, right? Everybody wants to grow in January, but November, December, it's sort of about cleaning up the year, really pushing for last, EOY sales. Like wholesale accounts, they might be a little bit, not that they're not going to open you, but they might just be a little bit, busy with everything going on.
They're still in a food coma for Thanksgiving. It's just everyone slows down a little bit. But actually, a question through Instagram here says, what's the margins that you see with brand direct wholesale versus like regular wholesale distributor accounts? You want to answer that, or you want me to take that one?
Yeah, I mean, margins come down, margins aren't necessarily a result of distributors versus brands, right? They're more so a result of the internal operations of a business. You can work with distributors, and you can, believe it or not, and I can see why somebody might ask that question, right? Because you think, okay, you're going brand direct, you're cutting out the middleman. But in this sort of a two-step distribution structure, that's not always the case, because sometimes distributors can actually get you a better cost than the brand directly can, right? So in many cases, yes, going brand direct expands margin, but not always. So generally in wholesale, what we found is, you can expect probably about a 15% gross margin. That's 1.5. And then it breaks down from there based on your net and your overhead expenses. Your net is going to be after your overhead expenses, whether that's 5%, 10%. And, depending on the size of the business, maybe you have, if you're a humongous $50 million company, you're probably reinvesting into R&D and growing, different aspects of your business. So it'll generally about 15% gross, then it breaks down from there.
That's 1.5, not 5.0.
That's why we're going to private label someday.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, it's a very on smaller margins too. We talked about check-in times earlier. It's like you have to between check-in times, between like paying supplier, like everything has to be streamlined and operationally. And that's what's important about understanding basically the cost per SKU, the cost per SKU you send into Amazon, cost per ASIN, and included in that is the cost of sending product in and having to wait and then waiting for the payout. And so there's a lot of elements to it where you have to really manage your capital, the smaller margins you have.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, by nature, wholesale is lower margin, higher volume business, right?
Mhm.
So, you really, like Brandon said, you have to be in tune with the lead time and your cash flow. And, because you're operating with smaller margins. It's no secret. That's just the nature of wholesale, but you can do massive, massive numbers, and make up for those lower margins by moving product quickly. So, versus a wholesale versus a private label, right? Private label, you could be looking at a 6-month lead time from when you have to place your order with your manufacturer to when you sell it. With wholesale, we're in and out. We're looking to get that inventory and turn it within 30 to 45 days, get the cash back, reinvest, and keep expanding and compounding like that.
Yeah, till they lose the pallet at the dock, then you're then you're in it for six
Yeah.
to 9 months.
Well,
What's we
there's
got
always that.
another question here from YouTube. Why don't you take this one? It says, what's the best sourcing method that you've experienced? I guess this would be the outreach, not sourcing, but the best outreach method that you've experienced: emails or cold calls?
I always say call, man. I mean, as a beginner, especially call. Like even if just call, because you need to get the reps in. That's what it comes down to. Nine times
Well,
out of
actually, that's it.
what was that?
You're like, just call. That's it.
Just call, like simple
Yeah, it's true.
call. But that's the thing
It's,
is like if you're not putting in the reps, like you're not going to get results. So the other thing about calls
yeah,
versus emails is that with calls, you can listen and hear tonality on the other end of the phone. You can't get that on an email. So
no,
when I'm reaching out to a brand and and the brand, tells me no by email, I don't know the degree to which that was a no. It could have been, I'm willing to listen to your offer, but I'm going to say no because it's an email.
yeah. Well,
So
again, think about the call we did today. That the guy, received a almost a borderline nasty email from the brand owner, and getting him on the phone and was that we were able to turn it into a completely different response. Um, so it's what they say, but it's also how they say it. And like you said, you're not going to get that unless you are on the phone with them.
yeah. Yeah. So if anyone has any other questions, throw them in here. We're approaching 8 o'clock, so we're probably going to get this wrapped up soon. We're live every Wednesday. Like I said earlier, go back on the channel and watch some of these lives. Like these are literally brands that we would reach out to ourselves, and I reached out to one of the brands that we sourced several weeks back. And it opened a conversation with them. So there's so much opportunity out there with these brands. It's unbelievable. The longer we do this, the more we see it. I mean, it's just one after another. But if you're not putting in the work and the reps, you're not going to find them. So we target the small to medium sized brands because we know we can make a difference in their business, right? It's not to say you can't work with distributors. By all means, you can work with distributors. But even with the distributors, we're working with smaller to medium sized distributors because we make a difference in their business, right? And we can get better costs and negotiate and have leverage because we're talking to an owner or an executive decision maker. So that's really the focus of what we're doing with wholesale. Um, and if you guys have any other questions at all, drop them on the videos. We read all the comments. If you guys haven't liked the video, it really helps out the videos on the channel. So hit the like button. Last minute words.
No, I got nothing. This was a good live with a lot of great questions. And appreciate you guys for tuning in. So thank you.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks,
All right.
guys.
Later.